apparently the Titanic was mostly empty. Can these conspiracy theorists sink any lower? Oh yes, our friend Hans Wormhat is back. The same idiot who believes there's a conspiracy involving hair dye and fountains and mountains. I'd like to thank my amazing patrons with their unwavering support. If you're interested in becoming a patron, just use the link in the description below. With massive thanks to all my patrons, including new patrons D Pep, Crispy Bacon, Andy Sibley, Glober Mum, Cy Allen and Safuric, and my latest patrons Gemini Luna, Jason Blackford, Colin Field and Scott Emmett O'Donnell. Thank you all so very much. So Hans, if you're going to serve a cornucopia of stupid and a veritable smorgasbord of derp, you better get on with it. Roll VT.
Hans Wormhat.
Mr. Sensible.
In this video I'm going to be looking at pictures of the Titanic.
Oh, goody.
The Titanic was really early 1900s, and if you look at photos of the Titanic being built, there's a lot of photos that they look legitimate. They don't look like half drawing, half photo. They don't have weird, totally white skies that look abnormal.
Well, camera technology has come on a little in over 100 years.
One thing you'll notice though, when you go look at Titanic construction photos, you only really see early photos of it being constructed, like the shipyard where they're constructing it, and you see them building kind of the shell, and you can find photos of the boilers, I don't know, some of the mechanical stuff, but you don't really see anything elegant.
Well, the photo you're looking at appears to be quite elegant. There would have been little point in lots and lots of photos of electricians and wood craftsmen fitting the ship out.
It's clear to me now. I mean, of course it's a big hoax. Any sensational news story like that, when you wake up to the grand conspiracy, how everything on the world stage is fake.
Oh dear. If only we were all woke.
I think that the Titanic mostly was just a shell.
And yet we have lots of photos of the interior of the Titanic.
There really wasn't anything inside the Titanic, and there really wasn't anything fancy inside the Titanic. This photo could have been, a set, or could be some rich person's house.
Well, I must admit, it does look suspiciously like my living room.
There's nobody in these photos. When you go look at photos of the alleged fancy stuff in the Titanic, it's like a ghost town.
Can you read the caption under the very photo you're showing, Hans? It's a photo taken shortly before the Titanic left. It would be before the passengers embarked.
You just really don't get photos with a lot of people in it, and so what they do is they make a movie. They make that Titanic movie, and they make their hoax come to life.
Why do you think they make any film? They make a film to entertain people. It was an exciting story.
I mean, like this, they didn't even spend the time to get a bunch of actors to come in. Just what they'll do is they'll later just write sensational stories about it.
Right, so they're trying to hoax us. They build these amazing sets and for some reason just neglect to think to put people in them.
Hidden hand. They love putting like a circle. It's like an illumination idea above this person's head.
They love to put circles above people's heads. Do you not think that it's perhaps just something on the wall behind him?
Empty. Completely empty.
I hope you got something better than this, Hans. Again, it's an image taken on the ship shortly before departure.
How do you know that this even was on the Titanic? This could just be a set made somewhere.
And all the people who worked on the construction of the ship, who were officers and staff on the ship, and all the passengers never noticed that they were in a movie set?
Okay, icebergs are a hoax. Just use any of your experience of the way that ice floats inside of water, and then go look at the images that they tell you what an iceberg looks like. That's not how things float. That thing would flop over and turn sideways.
Are you suggesting that berg is just sat on the surface of the water with nothing below? The vast majority of an iceberg is, of course, below the water surface, and it's melting. Eventually, it becomes imbalanced and will roll over. This is nothing new. You can find this out really easily, you total knobsocket.
And look how hokey this looks. This looks like a little miniature model or something. The iceberg suspected of having sunk the Titanic, and it looks like a pyramid. Okay, that's bad quality.
Yes, what a shame that there wasn't studio quality photography equipment and lighting, etc. on one of the ships that happened to rescue some of the survivors of the Titanic. If only they had that, then perhaps they could have kept you, a total chuff nugget, satisfied.
I don't know what the deal with the X's are here, because it looks like it was put on later, like somebody just with a wax marker or something, wax crayon. XXX is 666.
XXX is 10, 10, 10. You really do see religious conspiracy everywhere, don't you?
The rescue vessels aren't really that full. There's so much extra room on these ships.
So despite only having 2,200 on board, there's only lifeboat space for 1,178. 900 odd people were not going to get into a lifeboat. The Titanic had a maximum capacity of 3,547 passengers and crew. On this voyage, it actually had only a little over 2,200 people on board. However, although it was designed to carry 30 lifeboats, it only had 20, as the powers that be felt it made the decks look a bit cluttered. There was a delay of over an hour before the launch of the first lifeboat, and there was panic. Second Officer Lightoller later testified that it wasn't thought that the davits could withstand the weight of fully laden lifeboats. Many of the crew were poorly trained and weren't aware that you actually had to put steel beams under the davits to help support them.
The seas look incredibly calm too. Looks like a nice day.
But that's part of the reason for the collision. The Titanic was going very fast, the seas were very calm. No one was really expecting icebergs there, and any bergs would be harder to see in a calm sea because there's less crashing of waves against the side of them.
Look how empty. There's no icebergs anywhere. It's totally empty ocean. Icebergs are a hoax.
Really?
They're just not real. There might be chunks of ice floating out there sometimes.
Yes.
That would be icebergs.
But the whole notion of an iceberg, this tiny little thing with a huge ice chunk underneath the ocean, that's another. They like to take real life things and just blow it out of proportion.
I get the feeling you're thinking of icebergs being perhaps the size of a family car. They can be a little bigger. Just look at the size of that berg and the houses on the hillside in front.
Ice chunks floating in the ocean exist as a thing, but you don't have this crazy Hollywood notion of an iceberg. That's not real. That's not how ice works. It would turn.
And they do, as I have already shown you.
I'm not an expert in ice mechanics, but I know that icebergs don't make sense. That's not how ice floats in water.
Well, I think that we can agree that you're not an expert in ice mechanics.
A rescue boat full of survivors makes its way through the waterfall. Where's the ship, though? They didn't get any photos of the ship sinking.
The Titanic hit the iceberg at 11:40 p.m. The last of it slipped below the surface at 2:20 a.m. It was dark. People were panicked. Hundreds and hundreds of people were dying. People were trying to save their lives. The last thing they're going to do is rush back to their cabins to look for their box brownie. I'm afraid that people didn't have iPhones back then, so there are no nice little videos on TikTok or Vimeo for you.
I don't think that there are photos of the ship sinking. I mean, I didn't look exactly for that, but it's like they're getting these photos of the ships coming. Wouldn't you try to get a photo of the ship sinking? The big ship sinking?
Hans, you really are a total
Smethead.
Or are we to believe that these people boated for a huge distance?
Captain Smith gave the order for the distress signal to be sent out, CQD. The operators also sent out the newly invented signal, SOS. When those signals were heard, all the ships in the area would be going full steam ahead for the Titanic's location. Survivors in the lifeboats would just be milling about in the general area. No point in heading off in any particular direction. They're not going to get far, and they want to be where the rescue ships are coming.
We're going to stage we're going to stage this incredible boat, crashing. And they just know, okay, we're going to all evacuate the boat and get onto there were like these sister ships nearby to save everybody. It's just a Masonic play.
You know, Hans, I can't decide if you're an idiot, obnoxious, or both. Over 1,500 people died. The nearest rescue ship was over 60 miles away. It would have taken it quite some time to get to those people.
It's just a media sensation. What was the Titanic? It was a media sensation.
Of course it hit the news. This was a ship that they thought was unsinkable. It sank with a great loss of life.
Survivors of the Titanic are greeted by their relatives. It's all a big joke. And nowadays they'll do these diving things. I don't know, I haven't really watched these, but I imagine it's...
So you're going to give us your views on something you haven't watched.
They'll have some real footage, and then they probably just cut to crazy CGI if they want to show you these chandeliers and fancy passageways, and I bet you're just watching BS. Look at this little photo op. This looks like this a sigil. This is like the sigil of Satan. Satanic sigil right up here.
And at that point, I've had enough of your disrespectful, idiotic stupidity. The level of your research would make a primary school child embarrassed. You didn't even realise that icebergs do roll over. You don't have the knowledge or the empathy to understand that people desperate for their lives are not going to be messing around taking photos of ships in the middle of the night. While going through your video, I've been getting
Angrier and angrier.
and I've decided that you are a total
Shut up and sit down.